He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, everyone, we finally got the blueprint. We got the game plan. What will Gaza Lago look like? Well, we've been wondering, and now we know. Here it is.
Set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza number one.
Those of you who are just getting this on audio, you really did miss out. The visuals are stunning and brave. This must be an AI sort of generated thing, but it is just a pristine Persian Gulf sort of environment where you've got Elon Musk, who's lost a ton of weight and has put on a lot of muscle. It's pretty interesting. The AI treats Trump as chubby, but Musk is really fit now. He's felt. But he can't stop eating. He's eating in multiple scenes in the 30-second clip. But Musk has an incredible jawline. And he and Trump are hanging out. They're literally throwing money in the sky. They're partying. They're dancing. There's beautiful women everywhere. There's scrumptious-looking food. There's happy people. And all of this could be possible after Trump rebuilt Gaza. Trump Gaza number one. If that's not stuck in your head all day, then you and I are just not related. All right, a lot of fun stuff to get to today, and then unfun stuff in a little bit. But we'll start with media news. This was just a mind-blowing thing to wake up to today, that Jake Tapper is writing a book from CNN. Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. Everyone immediately seized on this clip online of Tapper. This was days before the presidential debate that doomed Joe Biden's political career and really his whole legacy, probably. Check this out with our friend Laura Trump.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline. Okay. That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You are
to
no
watch somebody on stage
that's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think.
This is just such party line stuff that Biden just had a stutter and you can't diagnose him. This is one of the things they fell back on, and it's kind of true, is it's hard to diagnose people if you haven't examined them yourself. It makes it very challenging to report on Biden because Biden's doctors have long reported that his only ailments were sleep apnea and a stiff gait. They would not suggest that he had any sort of mental decline, even though that was transparent to everyone. I wrote about this in Breaking Biden, that it was very clear that he had a cognitive decline, and we sort of need to get past it. We needed to move towards different arguments because we'd made those arguments that he was sort of an idiot for a long time, and it didn't work out very well for us. Like, we hadn't won on that argument. Obviously, when it became very clear after that debate, then I think I think the situation changed at that point. But this is what they would say: is that anytime he would confuse his wife and his sister, anytime that he would go on some sort of strange rant about corn pop, that we were just told he had a stutter because he grew up and he famously had a stutter and he had to coax himself out of that. And it obviously caused a lot of psychological torment. All that's true. It's documented in the book if you want the detail. And it is interesting. But that is not what was going on with Biden even before that debate. It was clear he had mental decline. It was totally reasonable to point it out. Let's play the rest of this clip.
Think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar, and I'm sure it offends you. Your father-in-law from afar, I'm sure it offends you. You don't have any standing to say.
I'm not diagnosing him. What I'm saying, Jake,
you just talked about a cognitive decline.
that Joe Biden
I have
is
one last
struggling
question for you, Laura. You can't
times on stage, and it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it.
When was that exactly? I have that timeline wrong. That was not right before the debate. That was a few years ago, but it was very clear that he had mental decline. And I just don't know he was covering up for Biden. He was part of the cover up. And then now he's writing a book decrying the cover up, allegedly. I haven't read the book. Maybe the book maybe holds the media to account. But that is pretty outrageous. I mean, the shamelessness of it is that you are a part of the cover up and then you write a book lamenting the cover up after the cover up is no longer, the point's moot. So apparently he's going to take us behind closed doors into private conversations between the heaviest of hitters, revealing how big the problem was and how many people knew about it. I don't understand this. What everyone's pointing out online, this is like an arsonist reporting on the fire. So that's right. I mean, that's what it is. But it's what is shocking to me is that the cover up was so bad. We all knew he was in mental decline. He was still a better politician than Kamala Harris. That was always my angle, and I think that's aged the best. I think that's the best take. That was my take originally. Look, you guys know I'll come off of a bad take if I think it's a bad take. But this is one where my take before was we all knew he was in mental decline, and he was still more capable of beating Trump than anyone else. And so that's why they were trying to run him. And then they swapped him out for Kamala Harris, and everyone realized she was an empty pantsuit wearing a turtleneck. And then Trump won by a lot. So that was always the thought. But just the shamelessness of Tapper, he's such a sellout. He just goes where the money is. That's fine. But it's all great media news. And Nolte's got a column for you at Breitbart News if you want more, plus hilarious jokes as always when Nolte writes. Rachel Maddow's staff is going to be let go as part of MSNBC's overhaul. We had a blast on yesterday's show going through some sniveling Maddow clips where she calls all of her bosses racist. So she called all of her bosses racist, and then they fired all of her staff. I mean, come on, guys. How cool is that? So she goes on air. She says, I can't believe you guys are getting rid of Joy Reid. I can't believe you're only keeping the white host of color. And that implies everyone on NBC News is a racist. So I'm going to say it on the air on NBC, and I'm going to get, how much does she get per show? Oh, I don't even want to do the math on that. It's going to be so depressing. It's 6 figures per show for sure, right? At least. Woo. How many of you are struggling right now who couldn't handle Rachel Maddow's paycheck for one show? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? So anyway, she goes on the air, calls all of her bosses racist, and they, well, you can do that. We're going to fire all your staff. That's what they did. So they're blowing out all the people who work for her, I guess. And she gets to keep her executive producer, Corey Nazzo. It's a cool name. Gnazzo. Let's get Corey Nazzo on the show just because I want to see in the lower third of the screen that name. Several other senior producers are going to stay, but they're going to fire almost everyone. So that's great. She deserves it. And her show didn't work. She was on 1 day a week, getting overpaid, and they lost. The whole point, as I've said, of NBC News is to protect NBC, Comcast, Universal, and the Democrat Party, who are the main board members of NBC, Comcast, Universal, Democrat funders and donors. So she's out. She's fired. It also gives me an excuse to do something I should have done yesterday, but the show was going long, is that I had a clip of Joy Reid crying on the air, and she's going to leave the network, and I didn't play it, and I have to play it, so now I'm playing it.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I'm sorry, I try not to cry on TV. And this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize. And that it mattered. I see Karen is there, and she's been texting me as well. And so what I will just say is that in the end, thank you. Where I land is that the moment of guilt that I felt, that I went hard on so many issues, whether it was the Black Lives Matter issues of a young baby or a mom or a dad that was killed, or when we opened up people's eyes to the fact that Asian Americans were being targeted and not just Black folks,
I find it very interesting that she cut off her Donald Trump haircut. I feel like that's the big thing here. She fashioned her hairstyle like Donald Trump. She got the yellow sort of tuft of hair on top of her head, which is culturally appropriating Donald Trump's heritage, and she was not held to account for that. And now she's off the air, and so I don't know what's going to happen, but the haircut's gone. I wonder if it's coincidence. I don't know. It's interesting crying on the air. When I left my SiriusXM show, I was a little weepy on the air. It was tough to get through it. It happens. But, I had to record that day. It was part of the job. And I wasn't fired for bad ratings and being annoying. I left voluntarily because I was doing the show at 3 a.m. and it's becoming very unhealthy. Keep doing it. So I'm sympathetic for her as a human being to lose your show. I'm sure it's very, very upsetting and very traumatizing. But she doesn't have to go on air and cry about it. And the fact that she cites her work for Black Lives Matter, which was such a hoax. They fleeced so many people, got fleeced by Black Lives Matter. So much money that was raised that did not go to Black Americans who needed it. So much money that was raised that went into the coffers of a white leftist activist and did so little good, just divided the country, created the Ferguson effect that made it so that more crime ruined these communities. And see, they missed so many of the biggest stories. We had one on immigration at Breitbart. A 7-time deported suspect, MS-13 gang member, arrested for murder in East Texas. So still in the United States, in a migrant colony. How many migrant colony reports did Joy Reid get to during her tenure at MSNBC? So she focused on maybe it was a father who died. Like, okay, the people die, and occasionally the news has got to isolate which ones we want to talk about, which ones we want to discuss, because we might think they prove a broader point. It would have been nice to every so often, the same way we on the right, people at Breitbart, if for whatever reason someone died from police brutality, we would give that coverage. Happens, and it is not something that there's more to it than MSNBC would portray, but we take it on. Did you ever take on anything like this after a multi-agency manhunt was looking for a deported Salvadorian illegal alien who had been deported 7 times in this country and had allegedly committed murder and is in Texas, in Colony Ridge, the largest migrant colony in Texas? Any interest in this stuff ever? Like, do we ever get any of that from MSNBC? Just not, never. All right, just because it's cold outside doesn't mean you have to stop grilling. I certainly don't stop grilling when it's cold, and it's not that cold where I am at, but I wouldn't stop anyway. If you got the right grill, you can grill all year long, and that's the Solaire infrared grill. Heats up in just 3 minutes, performs equally well in cold and winter weather as it does in the summer. You can grill your food much faster. It's just the proper way to cook a lot of your favorite dishes. Heats up food directly, not with the air around the food like a conventional grill. You don't need to put the hood down. You don't need to. It's not like an oven. It is heating it up with the intense heat coming from those infrared burners. The intense heat results in the juiciest food you'll ever taste from any kind of grill, gas, charcoal, or otherwise. To get the best taste you can get, it's all from the Solaire infrared. BestHotGrill.com. BestHotGrill.com is the website. It gets hotter than anything you've ever experienced during this season, and it just allows you to just dial in those flavors. I got to tell you, I was on it last Saturday. I made a Wellington. I made a Welly, and I got that great sear going on the filet, and it just, gets the whole process off to a great start. BestHotGrill.com. I'm sold. I'm a big fan. USA made Solaire infrared grills. Check one out today. So, all right. Interesting stuff. So the media continues to be in disarray. More stuff that is of note. Jeff Bezos sent out a letter to his Washington Post staff this morning. And I'll read this to you. Very significant just that the letter went out. What will happen will be its own interesting news cycle. But here's the letter. I'm writing to let you know that a change coming to our opinion pages. So just opinion. This is not news coverage. Their main problem is their news coverage. So just for whatever to follow, just know that my take is the main issue of the Washington Post is their news coverage is irresponsible. I don't care about their opinion page. So their opinion page is irrelevant. No one matters who writes for that opinion page. Charles Krauthammer used to write there. I would read that. I think George Will, when he was relevant, right there. I mean, but it doesn't matter who writes for. So still, but to get in the mind of one of the super billionaires who is clearly having some sort of a rejection of woke in his own heart, let's see where he goes. We're going to be writing every day in support and defense of 2 pillars, personal liberty and free markets. Okay, so this is not, we're writing in terms of about MAGA. We're writing about personal liberties, so freedom, free markets. So there's a very libertarian approach. But I think what's noteworthy so far, every day, he says, he continues, we'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others. There was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring to the reader's doorstep every morning a broad-based opinion section that sought to cover all news. Today, the internet does that job. It's a good point. It used to be if you want a variety, you could go to a paper and you would get variety, and now you get one-sided stuff. If you want variety, you got to hunt it down yourself. He says, I'm of America and for America and proud to be so. See, patriotism in this country is thought of as a bad thing. It's unique to America. I don't know if any other country is so self-critical that we hate ourselves the way so many Americans do. Now, not the MAGA movement, but there's a huge chunk of our country who doesn't like being American, that's been conditioned by our education system. We got into a lot of this with Marissa Streit on yesterday's show, if you want to check that out. But he goes on. Our country did not get here by being typical. And a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion and practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity. Okay, he continues. I offered David Shipley, who I greatly admire, the opportunity to lead this new chapter. I'm not familiar with David Shipley. I suggested to him that if the answer wasn't hell yes, then it had to be no. After careful consideration, David decided to step away. There's a significant shift. It won't be easy, and it will require 100% commitment. I respect his decision. We'll be searching for a new opinion editor to own this new direction. I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinion. I'm excited for us together to fill that void, Jeff. The one thing I'm reading between the lines here is that he doesn't have the person in mind to do this. Because you would think that there would be someone who would want to lead the opinion page at the Washington Post, but I don't know. I wouldn't want that job. You're dealing with a left-wing readership. You're dealing with left-wing staff, people who are in open revolt online. One of the worst writers of Washington Post, Philip Bump, who does some of their fact-checking, and one of the dumbest people in all of media, he responded, what the actual F-U-C-K? So that's how they're responding publicly online. Just open revolt against Bezos, even though he bought the paper and owns the paper. There's one thing I don't totally get, which is that when I have an employer that I've been known to speak the mind, so I make a living in it, but ultimately I have some respect for the person who signs the checks, right? We don't have that on the left. So, but anyway, the point is he wants a more libertarian direction of the opinion page. I don't know what that looks like, but he said deal with left-wing editors, left-wing copy editors, left-wing reporters, left-wing audience. So which opinion editor is going to try to marry that? Which person who's qualified and who wants to stay up on all the news that's necessary to recruit and draft people to write pieces that are either for free or for cheap and balance out their coverage for that and try to thread that needle. That sounds like a hard job. So hopefully we find someone great to do it, because it would be very interesting to me from a perspective of a news consumer to see what that would be like. So, but it's welcome. Look, it's the Bezos could have done more earlier, but it's as they say it with one of my favorite expressions, is the best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago, and the second best time is today. And I think that's great. So if we have some people coming around to our side, it sounds very good. Personal liberty, free markets, all good. And the fact that he got this Shipley guy that he wasn't on board, so he took a hike. Good. That's all good. I have no idea what is going to happen after all the crybabies revolt, which will happen. Maybe he's trying to get rid of the whole paper in general. I don't know, but he's definitely trying to get the people to self-deport who are not with the program, which is cool. I do like that. I don't know what his personal liberty is going to look like. I don't know how much Bezos is going to enforce any of this. I don't know if he's entirely sincere. I hope he is. But as a minimum, he wants these people to self-deport from the publication. And that's cool. Let's see it. Let's see how it plays out. All right, more media news. Carolyn Levitt announces from the White House Correspondents Association that the White House Correspondents Association will no longer determine the press pool. Now, this is a little wonky for those of you who aren't deep in the weeds in DC journalism. But the press pool is something that is controlled by a union, a press association that is a bunch of left-wingers who set a lot of the rules for how the White House is covered. And there's even an extra layer, which is there's a Senate press gallery that informs a lot of what's done at the White House press gallery. Now, the White House press gallery is much more famous because they do the Correspondents Association dinner every year where they hobnob with celebrities and the president tends to speak and they do like a roast and it's a black tie event. And it used to be a big, significant social event for people in Washington, D.C. And I never attended or attempted to attend because the just repulses me. And I'm glad. I don't think Trump ever went. I think that's great. So that's what they were both known for. But what they really do is they control who has a lot of the access to the covering the White House, in particular, these things called pool reports. So in a lot of scenarios, you cannot have every reporter and their mother present at the time, even those with credentials. There's a lot of limited space. And the way that space is allocated is largely determined by the press pool, who is in the pool for that day. Sometimes it's as few as one person, if it's a very special circumstance where only one reporter could be accommodated, then that reporter will write out what's known as a pool report, and that pool report will be distributed throughout basically every newsroom that covers the White House to any significant degree. And this is something that is almost always harms conservatives, Republicans, because that reporter is almost always either liberal or left themselves, or at a minimum writing for a liberal or left audience. So the White House has finally said, we're not going to do it anymore. So it is a total monopoly. It is completely unfair. It is horrible for us at Breitbart who, I don't know, we've got to pool a couple times, I think, but it's been very few, especially relative to the scope of our audience, that people who are regularly get to pool who are not, have a fraction of our audience, but they're respected by the White House Correspondents Association, which we're not. So it's one of these things where it's a corrupt group, it's a monopoly. And they, of course, were outraged by this. Eugene Daniels, who is the head of the Correspondents Association right now, sent out a really long statement that I didn't even bother to read myself, and I will not read it to you. But I will tell you that Matt Boyle for us at Breitbart News responded, "You, sir, are the world's biggest hypocrite. On behalf of Joe Biden, you and the White House Correspondents Association blocked access to outlets Biden didn't want covering the White House like Breitbart News, and you still do not allow us access into the pool coverage. The White House Correspondents Association is a corrupt and decrepit organization that does not represent the free press." Well put, Senor Boyle. Very well stated. Exactly right. And then we learned right after Daniels, the Correspondents Association president, is leaving to join MSNBC. So he was at Politico previously working on the, whatever that newsletter is that people used to read all the time. They probably still read it. I don't know. Playbook, is he on Playbook now? Too many newsletters. But Playbook used to be must read. Now it's probably good stuff in there. I don't know. Whatever. But he's leaving to go to MSNBC. So he's got a lot of woke points, woke guy, very outraged. White House wants to do this, but it's all paper tiger stuff. And Trump he's at war with the establishment press, the fake news, the enemy of the people. Not a free press, but the fake news press that feels entitled to report falsehoods about him. He does not want that to happen. And I can tell this, I was reading between the lines. I really do think that this is a big thing that's animating Trump at the moment, is his resistance to try to have the establishment media's portrayal of him be what is the living reality, what is people's perception. So Trump's also threatened to sue authors and media who use anonymous sources. Now, do I think Trump can do this? Remember, don't take Trump literally, but take him seriously. I don't think he would win. I don't think it's illegal to use anonymous sources. We have a free press in this country. But he's noticing a pattern that a lot of the stories with anonymous sources are not true. It's gossip, and something really changed in the establishment media during my career, which is not that long, 17 years. So it's been a little bit, but not that long in media, where it used to be really frowned upon to use anonymous sources in your reporting. And now it is considered almost the standard. The thought of getting a front page New York Times story that is based on anonymous reports, when I started in journalism, would have been unthinkable. The expectation would have been you get people on the record or nothing at all. Or maybe it makes it in the back pages as some sort of a blurb. But now it's everything. It's the whole paper. It's all this stuff. So The left, of course, melts down over this. But again, remember, don't take it literally, but take it seriously. He's sending a clear message, stop with the anonymous source reports. And it prompts people like me to convey to you how bad it is, what a disease it is in journalism, that instead of actually getting on-record reports from newsmakers, we get gossip from people who are just trying to mix stuff up. There's a place for it. I like gossip sensibilities, but it's just overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed the news. It really has. And a lot of the reporters that you've heard of are not necessarily people who are doing gumshoe journalism. They're not hunting down scoops. They're not in their labs doing investigative research. They're people who are sitting at their desk and they're waiting to do stenography for people who have their own agendas within our governments and bureaucracies. And Trump hates that, and he should hate it because it doesn't help him. If it was working out for him, maybe you'd have a different approach, but it's just not working for him. Let's do a check-in on how the left is doing with all this stuff, all the winning that's going on. Filmmaker James Cameron's mourning Trump's election, saying it's horrific and sickening, and he's trying to get citizenship in New Zealand, which he's been doing for a really long time. That's why I bring this up, is because he's sought citizenship in New Zealand, but I feel like we've been talking about this forever, that he's been wanting to do this, and he hasn't done it. So they're just such liars. They like their lives. They also just like getting attention. Michael Moore said that Trump might be deporting illegal aliens who could cure cancer or stop an asteroid. Isn't that pretty good in light of the story I just brought up with the 7-time deported MS-13 gang member who we just arrested for murder? Now, we don't know if there are any people who are curing cancer. I'll have, the next time I talk to Mrs. Dr. Marlow, I'll have to ask her, does she know of any illegal aliens who are on the brink of curing cancer? So is she seeing any great peer-reviewed studies coming out of Johns Hopkins from their resident illegal alien researchers? So Michael Moore saying they're going to stop asteroids and cure cancer. We don't know that. We don't know for sure he's wrong. We don't know for sure Michael Moore's wrong. But we don't know if they're going to cure cancer, stop an asteroid. What we do know is that they're going to bring fentanyl and murder people. We do know that. Not all of them. Some of them will merely pick the food that is put on your plate, as Pramila Jayapal says. So it's so backwards that we talk about human beings in this way. They're not magical. They're not heroic. Not all of them are murderers like the MS-13 guy. But this is why we need to talk at a broader level. People like the deportations. They would like a secure border. They would like for Americans to be treated as a priority. That should be the policy. And once we get that in place, then we can go to all the details. Neil Monroe uncovered for us a secret Biden policy to fast track illegals through airport security lines. Isn't this wild? He's one of our immigration experts at Breitbart. Trump's airport security agencies opened up a fast track line for illegal migrants in 2021, according to a document released by President Trump's deputies. So 2021 document, DHS provided these documents. And basically, if you get your notice to appear, then you can display them electronically at TSA security checkpoints. And so they can present a photo and a screenshot on their device, and TSA can just grant them passage into the country. So it's actually faster than normal people through this process. So you can enter illegally, but you don't have to have a government ID. But if you do have a notice to appear, even if you're a Tren de Aragua member or someone like that, you just skate through. And Biden enacted this in 2021.
I told you the government doesn't even consider your money your property. I know that sounds crazy, but that's exactly what the DOJ just tried to argue in court, claiming cash isn't property, so they can seize it whenever they want. That's right. According to the DOJ, your hard-earned money isn't legally yours. Now, you think your savings are safe? Think again. The argument just kicked the door wide open for Washington to freeze bank accounts, confiscate retirement savings, and wipe out wealth overnight. But here's the part they don't want you to know. Gold and silver are property. They're real, tangible assets, not digital dollars. They can just erase with the click of a button. That's why my friends at Priority Gold put together a free wealth defense guide, exposing a little-known IRS loophole that lets you legally shield your savings with physical gold and silver. Click the link below right now to get your free copy. Don't wait until they come for your money. Click the link below now.
I'll throw in a controversial one. So Trump promised a $5 million gold card for foreigners to buy citizenship. And this is one where I want the audience's help. Look, I like to come to the show with more declarative stuff where I feel like I see what's going on and I don't think people see it yet. And I want to share with you what I think is going on. Like on yesterday's show, how I talked about how you saw Governor DeSantis calling out congressmen for not getting enough of Trump's agenda done. That wasn't what he was doing. What he was doing is he was taking on Byron Donalds to advance his wife, Casey, in the governor race for Florida. So when I see something, I'm not sure everyone's pointing out all the dots. That's what I love to do in the show. But sometimes what I can do is I can throw something out where I don't know what I think, and I get your opinion. aloha@alexmarlow.com. You've been sending me terrific emails. $5 million gold cards for foreigners to buy citizenship. Basically, if you're a rich person and you would come into our country, you can now buy your way in. So there's not that many of these that are going to go out because how many people have $5 million to buy their way to America? But a lot of people who have that type of cheese will want to do that. And what does that mean for them? Do they get to vote? Can a bunch of Chinese come in and do it? What kind of a vetting screening process do we have? But basically, Trump's logic is these people are going to be spending a lot of money. They're going to be paying a lot of taxes when they're here. And they're going to be innovators. They're going to be entrepreneurial. So, and he says he wants to cap it at 10,000 green cards per year. Still sounds like a lot. Mark Cryin, who is from the, what's his wonderful group? Center for Immigration Studies, off inside of Breitbart, says not a fan of selling membership to the U.S., but if you're going to do it, charge a lot of money like this instead of nickel and dime EB-5 visas where the money doesn't go to the Treasury. Okay. So that's a pretty good, that's as close to an endorsement as you can get from the toughest guys in immigration. So I'm open-minded to this. I don't know. Look, anything Trump is doing, I lightly like it as of now, but we're definitely in the honeymoon for me. I'm not feeling very critical. I'm feeling very positive on all he's doing. Likewise, we saw that the big, beautiful bill is advancing through the Congress. I talked about how I generally oppose big, beautiful bills, but I feel like to get this administration off on the right foot, we should get Trump his big, beautiful bill with all the stuff he wants in it, border security, tax cuts, et cetera. Get that going now. And then we can work on trying to rein in the philosophical largesse that we've all become accustomed to. We're passing way too much at once. So the only Thomas Massie's objected in the Republican caucus. So which would mean that bill will likely get through. We'll see. So a lot of work to be done. But it seems like that's where we're at. And Massey's objection is that it's going to raise the deficit, which I told you even before inauguration. I'd said the problem we're going to see is that the debt's going to go up short term because the savings Trump is going to be able to enact with Doge, et cetera, are not going to kick in right away. And tax cuts will look like immediate short-term spending. Because remember, we've spent all the money already. So we're living off credit cards at this time. So we're essentially just borrowing more. And that's tough. That's tough because we're going to have to message that because we're going to give the left the talking point that the deficit's going up, the debt's going up. But really what's happened is we've put more money back into people's pockets and the cuts are going to catch up. And hopefully if the deregulation that continues to take place is going to lead to more entrepreneurialism, then the pie is going to grow, as Joe Biden might say, exponentially. And then we're all going to be rich and swimming in cash. That's the goal. But short term is going to look like a deficit increase, perhaps, definitely a debt increase. And it does look like we're doing all the stuff we've accused the left of doing, which I'm cautious of that. But I'm tempted not to do too much critiquing because we elected Trump. This is what he wants. It's his signature thing he wants to do for now. And it could lead to a lot of good. Let me show you something. This is the CEO of Eli Lilly, which is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies. This is a big announcement that was made. This was, I think, today on CNBC. Check this out.
So these 4 sites, what's the goal here? Will they be replacing overseas manufacturing, or is this just a continuation of that increase of the obesity drug supply that you've been undertaking since 2020?
Right. So today we're announcing 4 new sites, $27 billion additional spend, bringing our total to more than $50 billion since 2020 in the U.S. So huge build out in our country. And it's to support our pipeline growth overall, but disproportionately growing in the U.S. And so here we'll be building 4 new sites. 3 are active ingredient sites and then 1 parenteral site for the injectable medications. Of course, the Zepbound and other future obesity medications will be a big part of that volume growth, but other medicines for cancer and Alzheimer's, et cetera, will also be important to support here with domestic manufacturing. So big announcement today. It's very exciting.
It is. So this is so big. And one of the reasons why it's so big is because if you've looked in the pharmaceutical industry at all, if you know anything about it, that you know that there's a constant ticking clock element, ticking time bomb, if you will, with a lot of the innovation that they have. Because once you've got innovation, it takes a while for the FDA to approve something that's good. And then you're on a clock, I think usually it's about 10 years or so, where your patent lasts. So a lot of the time when you're anticipating that the FDA is going to approve a new drug that you have, and sometimes it could take years for you to build the proper facility to manufacture that drug at scale, then you will occasionally bet big on building the factory before the FDA's even approved it, because once the FDA approves it, your 10 years begins. So you don't want to wait for the FDA approval of the drug, and then you got to spend 3 or 4 years building a plant, and then you're losing out on all that money. And you know these guys are all the best economists in the world, and they're trying to optimize every last penny they can get, knowing that that patent's going to run out, it's going to go generic, and it's going to be a lot cheaper in your CVS or whatever it is. And so that's the battle that the pharmaceutical companies, among others, that's one of their battles. So and again, I know a lot of you are just in this audience are going to be very negative everything pharmaceutical companies. That's not what I'm getting at here. What I'm getting at is these are massive companies that do lots of manufacturing, and a lot of the time they've been outsourcing it to various places like Germany, places like all over the world, where they're not making the drugs, even though it's American innovation that gets us the drugs, they're not manufacturing them here. And now, given the tariffs, given that Trump's in there, and again, we got J.D. Vance warming up in the bullpen, we could be looking at 8 to 12 years of uninterrupted MAGA, America First policy. Then when you get that going, then all of a sudden these people are going to be betting, why would we build a plant somewhere else when Trump could tariff us, and then we won't be able to bring it back to the United States? That doesn't make sense. So not only are we going to announce it here in the United States, we're going to go on American media and we're going to tout it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get into all of it. So just absolutely fantastic development. It's so good for the country. And the left has no retort. They have no way to deal with any of this. Let's check in on our good friend, Jasmine Crockett. She was asked about Elon Musk. Let's see how she reacted.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Fuck off.
That's it.
2 words. So she's not normally a person who's so terse. Really tight, almost witty. F off. There's so little decorum now. We're just done with decorum now as a country. This is Maxwell Frost. I think he's the only Gen Z member of the Congress, or he's the youngest member, or was the youngest member. He was going up against our new friend, James Comer. If you guys missed our Breitbart Fight Club, we're putting out a little highlight reel. So I did a long conversation with Congressman Comer from the House Oversight Committee on our Fight Club on Sunday, and we'll try to make it all available for you, but we'll make a little bit available for sure. That's why you got to get Fight Club. It's such great stuff that happens over there. So please go over there and subscribe. But here's Maxwell Frost at a hearing led by Comer. I had just read a book last week about how Comer is so frustrated with all the preening that takes place at these public hearings and how it's an impediment for anything getting done. Now check this out.
People like the grifter-in-chief Trump and President Musk are openly using their public offices to enrich themselves to the tune of billions of dollars. So if we want to look at waste, fraud, and abuse, which I'm down to do, why is there complete silence on the other side of the aisle about looking at the complete grifter that is the President of the United States and the richest man on the earth, which is looking into things like Social Security and different things like that? Why don't we investigate the real corruption?
Hold off. Point of order.
So he's at work right now representing a district in the U.S. Congress, and he just thinks just name calling Musk is the real president. Trump is a grifter. It's just name call. There's no substance. It's just anger, animosity, division. Nothing productive. Just trying to get attention so that he can go and fundraise.
My time.
Point of order,
Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
Hold off. There was a point of order when you said something. Who asked for it? Mr. Higgins, would you like to revise your remark with respect to improperly identifying the President of the United States?
I'll say President Musk and grifter-in-chief Trump.
All right.
Grifter-in-chief
Hey, Mr. Chairman, point of order.
So Comer asked for some decorum. Like we're in the U.S. Congress here. We're supposed to not embarrass ourselves. And would you like to clarify? And then President Musk and grifter-in-chief Trump. That's it. So what is it? What has this guy Frost ever done? He just got elected, right? I mean, it's Trump has golf courses. He's got high rises. He beat an assassination attempt. He beat all these investigations into his family. He beat all the lawfare. He won president twice. He was the number one guy in cable news. Well, why just grifter? Why is grifter the branding? He's the richest president ever. You can get there by, publicly trading stock. He got there with hard work and with vision. So this whole thing, I don't think this is a good look for them. I think they're better off trying to figure out ways to work with Trump and to try to maybe point out where Trump could do a better job. And there's opportunities. I mean, Musk does cut a kind of a goofy figure sometimes. I'm sure there are ways to point out Doge's mistakes. Like I think Doge is doing amazing overall, but I'm sure you could find little things where you can just say, oh, well, we could have done it a little better. That's a better approach. Just call him names. Does that really work? Does that really help? I don't think so anymore. I think that's been rejected.
Point of order. If I wanted to challenge someone to a fight, they would know it. Thank you.
Chairman, if Mr. Musk actually came here, then maybe the rules committee.
I heard no disparagement.
I'll say something else.
We'll save a lot of time.
I'll say something else.
Okay. All right. We're going to let Chair recognize Mr. Frost. You still have 3:49. You're going to maybe revise the disparaging comment about
Comer's having fun with it because he knows now it's so low stakes. He's not really doing anything. He's just sort of making a fool of himself. I'm sure he's probably happy. He's probably thinking exactly this is all this. What's going to happen is just going to show up on right-wing talk radio and podcasts.
About the president, because that's supposed to be our decorum here. And
it is supposed to be.
He's got a smile on his face. Like he knows Comer's just messing with Frost now. So Comer wrote this book, All the President's Money, that I just finished reading. It's really good. And one thing I liked about it is he has a couple new bombshells about Biden's that I wasn't aware of. Those were great. We highlighted some of those at Breitbart News this week. But and earlier on this show, I think on Monday's show, I went through some of them. But one thing that I really enjoyed personally was just the congressional memoir element of it, is that I hadn't read about what really goes on in the Congress. And it does confirm and enhance some of what I've perceived, which is a lot of these public hearings are just stupid hour. And they're just designed to try to fundraise and to draw attention to your causes and are actually an impediment to real stuff getting done. And what could be better than this? It's such a waste of time, though, for people who are actually trying to investigate things and get things passed. Here we go. Here's a little more.
President Musk and the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is engaged in grifting of the American people, often use their public offices to enrich themselves. Someone on the other side was just asking, how would you feel if you called someone else from the
Hold off, Mr. Frost. Hold off. There's a pending motion for disparaging the president.
I will say the president's grifting because you spent the last 2 years saying President Biden.
Take down his words.
I can say that Trump is grifting. What I will withdraw is calling him grifter in chief. That is what I will.
The chair
withdraw.
sustains the point of order, and the words in question are ordered stricken from the transcript of this proceeding. So the member is barred from further participation.
Ms. Crockett.
Insulting people's appearance as well as trying to fight them isn't a problem.
Point of order. It's a yes or no.
But we're so sad.
No.
Yes or no.
That our
yes or no.
Order.
Just skip her.
So
skip her. Skip her. You're skip her. Go to the next one. Go to the next.
The
one.
MSNBC anchor.
Go to the next one. Don't count that. Go to the next one.
Ms. Randall votes.
I think it's called the young MSNBC anchor. Someone said off camera. That's pretty cool.
Votes no. Mr. Subramaniam. Mr. Subramaniam votes no.
I want to say it's despicable that this committee is going to silence me for bringing up...
The gentleman's words have been taken down. He is not
Mr.
permitted
Frost.
to speak for the rest of the hearing.
All right.
Making millions of dollars.
Mr. Frost.
Millions of
Mr.
dollars.
Ranking Member,
Great.
I'm
All
going to
right.
have the Sergeant at Arms remove him if he does.
Yeah, a loudmouth. That's great. It's terrific. Good. Hey, we got a new star. We got a new star, Misty. Maxwell Frost. Misty, you got a funny shout out on my Fight Club interview on Sunday, by the way, one of the commenters, because I had hit mute inadvertently during the interview with Congressman Comer, and someone had put in the chat, Misty, can you edit that out? So it was pretty funny because Missy does not produce a Fight Club. Patricia produces the Fight Club. So but you guys get it if you're following all my stuff. It was funny. I laughed at it when I saw it afterwards. All right. So that's how the left is dealing with. They got one more left dealing with the meltdowns from the right. And this is Ted Lieu, who is another entertaining guy in the Congress, is asked about a UN resolution that the U.S. wouldn't sign. And here's where he is.
One more. What's your message to the American people who are concerned about the UN resolution yesterday when, the United States voted with Belarus, Hungary, Syria, and not the other members of the G7? All 6 G7 nations other than the United States voted to condemn Russia for invading Ukraine. The United States didn't. Does that also give you pause?
That was a shameful day for America. We used to fight the axis of evil. Now Trump apparently wants to join the axis of evil.
So Trump wants to join the axis of evil. First of all, G7 is an economic group. It's kind of designed to have, it's a form of economic stuff. It's not really designed to, I don't know if it's not like a moral authority. I don't look at the G7 as some sort of moral arbiter, it's a council of elders for the world. No, it's people we do economic business with. Like that's what that's about. It was very odd that it was cited as morally superior. Like I know Orban is a dictator at this point in Hungary, but I definitely relate to Hungary more than I think a lot of the other G7 countries. It's let's see, what do they got? So Canada, France, Germany, and then there's Italy, Japan, United Kingdom. Italy, Japan, United Kingdom. Those are good countries, I guess. But I'm not looking at Canada, France, and Germany for my values. You'd be kidding me. Be absolutely kidding me. So anyway, so it's just sort of a silly question. But then Lieu says that we want to join the axis of evil. This is where people don't understand the art of the deal. Yesterday, I opened the show discussing how Putin was playing chess with the rare earths, saying, hey, President Trump, you don't need to get the rare earths from Ukraine. We can take that territory, and then we will sell you the rare earths. And then we have our own rare earths, and we'll sell you some of those too. And so then, lo and behold, after Putin makes that move, because we're playing three-handed chess, yes, three-handed chess, that's not quite right, makes that move, all of a sudden, Zelensky agrees to Trump's rare earth minerals in principle. So Zelensky allegedly is going to come to Washington end of this week, into next week sometime, but probably end of this week, and he's going to get a deal done so the United States will take over rare earths so we can start getting, recoup that money that we waste in Ukraine. A lot of which went to this unnecessary war, and a lot of this went to ski resorts, as Tucker reported. So, and a lot of it just gone.
All right, President Trump is moving at lightning speed in his first weeks in office with executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It can be hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This daily email brings you highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Get all the details on the administration's top actions that day with in-depth analysis. You stay up to date on what President Trump is doing to make America great again. Subscribe to the Trump Report today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. That's SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. Get that up-to-the-minute email every single day with Salem.
So Trump says, I want the rare earths, which I said was brilliant. A lot of people acted very confused about it. And then Putin makes a nice move. He says, hey, you don't need Ukraine to do that. We'll give you the rare earths. Zelensky says, okay, we're in. We'll do the rare earths. That's how the art of the deal works. And that's why Trump is better than all of us at this. And he is the absolute alpha 800-pound gorilla on planet Earth at the moment. And he's a step ahead of everyone. Maxwell Frost treated him like he's some sort of a grifter. No, he's the smartest guy out there by a mile. There's no one even close. He's playing at such a level above anything that any of us are doing. On tomorrow's show, I'm going to talk about with Brian Lilly from Canada. He's one of the best reporters in Canada, about a lot of stuff going on with Canada. But in particular, we're going to get into how basically every foreign policy move Trump is making is actually about keeping China at bay. Taking back Panama Canal, putting pressure on Canada with regards to their border and with regards to trade, tariffing everyone, trying to pull Russia away from China's sphere of influence with that summit in Riyadh, trying to get the rare earths from Ukraine. All of this has China in mind. He's not even calling out China by name for the most part, aside from with regards to Panama. But all these moves, all these machinations is because he's got a game plan to try to solidify America's standing. The Greenland move, China to make overtures into the Arctic. We're going to get into that. All of this is about trying to solidify America as the preeminent global superpower. Everything we're doing has that in mind, and that's why he made this reverse move. It's going perfectly, and that's the lesson of today, is that do not underestimate Trump. Do not take him literally, but take him absolutely seriously, because he is just way more clever at this stuff than anyone. That is today's show. Keep emailing me. I know I'm behind on the emails, but they're so good. I will get to them shortly. Aloha to alexmarlow.com. Thanks to our producer, Misty, and 5-star reviews, very helpful. Talk to you tomorrow.